Welcome to the iNetrepreneur Radio Show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNetrepreneur Media Network from magazines, TV, and radio network, we're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show today. I'm excited to have you join us. It's a really special show because I have three rock stars in the pet/animal world, and we're going to interview them. But before we get on with the show, I just want to do a few reminders that we have coming up. We have right here, I'm going to scroll it right here. I just want to remind you, go ahead and just subscribe to our channel. It's youtube.com/iNetrepreneur Network. /iNetrepreneur Radio. Again, that's youtube.com/iNetrepreneur Radio. And I'll also put that up in our comments as well, so you can click on it and subscribe. Also, go ahead and like us on Facebook. Our show runs through Facebook at facebook.com/iNetrepreneur Radio. Again, /iNetrepreneur Radio. One of the things I kind of want to talk about, concerning our show today is just, a little bit about, pets. For a lot of entrepreneurs out there, and especially in the iNetrepreneur Network, we are pet owners. We did a straw poll of how many pet owners were in the iNetrepreneur Network, and we found out about 75% of the entrepreneurs in this network are pet owners. And there's various reasons why they may be pet owners. And, some of the things that I kind of came up with is, they help with happiness. They help with joy. They help with companionship, and they help, even out the emotions that kind of come and go when it is, when you are an entrepreneur. A lot of people who are not business owners, may not realize that a lot of time as an entrepreneur, you're really spending alone. And so kind of that furry cat or that furry dog or bird or whatever, tends to be a lot of the companionship and that feeling of love in your environment that you may not have otherwise. Some of us are older, some of us are in our second career, some of us don't have a partner, and our pets actually in certain ways do become that partner. They become that priceless part of your life that gets you through some of the trials and tribulations that you may have, as an entrepreneur. And so the topic today is pets are more than animals. They help us, regulate our emotions, create more activity in our life, and certainly help us lead to prosperity. And for my first guest today, I would like to welcome Michelle Goss. Hi, Michelle. How are you today?
Hi, Robert. I'm doing quite well. Thank you.
Well, I am glad you're on the show today. We haven't been able to talk personally yet, so usually I save the person who I don't know as last, but I thought today we're going to start with you because you do a lot of things that I think I want to uncover, part of the hood of what you do. But before we go there, let's start a little bit of a foundation, because I know that you didn't have Spirit Mountain Healing Center all of your life. You may have moved here. You may have had some heroes in your life that created some impact. Tell us a little bit about your history before we start talking about your business.
Well, you're correct. I came out here about 25 years ago from Wisconsin, so I'm a Midwest girl. And as far as a hero, that would have to be my mom, who supported me through my entire journey of this. As far as Spirit Mountain Healing Center has been around in some form. It's morphed over the years as I've grown and changed, and life has thrown curveballs at me, so we've got to stay adaptive.
Yeah. Now, in your earlier years of your journey, I mean, were you always, a pet person? Were you always an animal person, or did that grow over time? I like to say, a lot of things are sometimes there's nature and there's nurture. Was there a little bit of both in your early years to love animals so much?
Oh, absolutely. Kind of the joke is the first word out of my mouth was horse, not mom and dad. I remember when I got my first dog, Her name was Sassy, and how that changed my life. And when I got my first horse. And so, yeah, I've been an animal lover, worked with animals all my life. I have degrees around animals, if you will, education. And that's kind of the journey I've gone because of my passion, especially for the horse.
Well, yeah, and many times I know with me, we think of humans as having spirituality, and sometimes we don't think one of the things I think I've learned over time is it's not necessary that souls are just the part of human beings. Souls may manifest in animals and well. What is your experience with how you look at souls, and if they're a part of animals too?
Oh, absolutely. I've had horses in my life for over 30 years. I've professionally worked with horses and dogs because they go with the farm. But absolutely, they have their own unique personalities, their own energy signature, if you will, their own souls. Um, they're as individual as we are. And I think that's some of the power of it. It's scientifically been proven that the act of petting an animal, whether it's a dog or a horse, lowers our blood pressure, lowers our heart rate, and actually can trigger the vagus nerve, which they're now calling the relationship nerve, which actually helps us connect.
And I think that's important. I actually, with a lot of collaborative authors, we created the book The Art of Connection. And The Art of Connection goes over just that. What do connections look like? How do we hold them? How can we manifest them and vibrate connections at a greater level? And when it comes to connections, with us as human beings, it all starts with conversation. But what's amazing about animals is we may not be able to speak with them in language, so we speak with animals, I believe, in a different vibrational way. And I think it also opens up the intuition we as business owners can use to run our businesses. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. We're all made of energy. Animals, everything is energy. And it's the art of connection through the energy that I believe is so powerful. I look at it, we're herd animals. We've got to have connection. We are not designed to be on our own. And, so being able to foster relationships and connections, whether it's business, personal, is definitely important. But I think especially as an entrepreneur, definitely, because the networking and those connections, especially in post-COVID times, is so important, because we've all been so disconnected. And, we can help each other with that and take that energy in that and foster something more beautiful with it.
Well, I also think that when you speak of fostering, I think you know many times we work so much, and I come from marketing and a pharmaceutical and a nutraceutical background, and so many times we rely on let's say science, or we rely on drugs, or we rely on all these synthetic models, right? To grow and to move on and to get over and to heal and to create awareness, etc. And quite frankly, just to connect with each other. But I think sometimes animals, they can help us start the process of connecting much better than many synthetic ways. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Synthetic is exactly that. It's artificial. So therefore, to me, it's not sustainable, and it's not a pure, authentic connection then, because you're not connecting on a true energy level. That's what I do with the horses is foster connections. They've been in my life all along, always there when I need them. And I give that to my clients that come to me and stuff and work with the horses. I think the biggest power for the horses is, we're predators and they're prey animals. They're, by nature, we're designed to chase after them, and they're designed to run from us. And so to be able to be in the same space and make this connection with this huge animal who technically should be afraid of us, and then give us the space and the support and everything we need at that moment, and somehow know that no drug can do that. Nothing artificial can ever connect that, because it's not the right form of energy. It's artificial. It's a substitute. And I think that's the power of animals, whether they're pets or horses, is it's pure and authentic. They meet you where you're at, as you are in that moment, and that's all they do.
And that is something that we all can learn from. And you actually gave me goosebumps on it, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and many of the statements I always say is, are you being in the moment? Are you with your client right now? Are you able to listen and hear what they're saying? I mean, that's important stuff. But not only that, bringing up synthetic and bringing authentic to the equation. And so when I look at people and they're taking melatonin to sleep, or they're drinking gallons of coffee and big gulps to stay awake, and they're taking bottles of whatever it is to keep them in their game, so to speak, these juice drinks and these monster drinks and these, you might as well be biting the truck tire after it's all said and done. But where I'm going with this is, if we're truly being authentic, and if we're truly wanting to connect, it does make sense to connect something with our animals around us that actually do truly authentically want to connect with us. Because I don't remember any horse drinking a gallon of coffee to stay awake, or melatonin to sleep, or anything else to keep them connected to us. Is that right?
Yeah. Something you said about working with entrepreneurs and being in the moment. The thing is, I think where the horses especially help, and other animals as well, is if you're going to connect with others, you have to be able to connect with yourself first. If you can't connect with yourself and be in the present moment, you're not going to connect with somebody else. If you've got anxieties, you're generally in the future. If you've got, if you're more depressed or in a lower level, you're in the past. And so if you're calm and present, you're in the present moment. And that's where I think the power of the animals are for us, especially the horse, to help us connect with self again. Because once we can connect with self and do it authentically and consistently, we can easily meet our clients where they're at, and listen authentically and support and do whatever we need to do as entrepreneurs to foster that. I think that's a huge piece for us that the animals really play into.
Well, and I like to say, one of the greatest, problems that most entrepreneurs have is they work on what they do and they don't work on who they are. And that process is called self-care. And, how can you learn from a self-help book? And I say this a lot of times when I'm working with people. I understand you're reading that self-help book, but let me ask you what you learned from the book, and they can't remember a word that they read. But the one thing that they can remember is if the feeling of a pet running up to them after they come home from the day, the feeling of a large animal recognizing them and giving them unconditional love. If that's not self-help, if that is not self-care, I just don't, I'm in the wrong business, because I don't understand what I do. And that's why I think so many of the times, when I'm working with people, I think to understand yourself, you must understand nature. And the better that you understand nature and the gifts that are all around us, the better that you yourself will live. Wouldn't you agree with that, Michelle?
Yeah, definitely. The one thing that comes to mind is, you're talking about self-help and how people read all these books and everything, but can't do that. To me, the basics is, if you can't help yourself, how do you help others? And I think that's where the power of the animals come in, because they do allow us to help ourselves, and they'll call us on our stuff too. You can't lie to a horse. Trust me, I have tried many times in my life. Dogs too intuitively know. There's been times that I have 2 dogs as well that, I'm not feeling quite right. I watch it all the time with my clients. One of my dogs, when they need comfort or grounding, she'll go sit on their feet and sit there and be by them. And it's just different things that you notice with that. And as the process, I think a lot of it is, learning rather than learning, not who we are, but learning who we are not, and that's that authenticity part where the animals really help. A lot of times we're trying to be a certain person or a certain way or whatever and fit into certain things, which trying to pound a square peg into a round hole. And we wonder why things aren't working, when the business isn't working or whatever's going on in our life. And I think it's a lot of a process of learning, who we are not, what is not working. And our animals will unconditionally give that to us. The horses, are out there and just in that moment are like, meeting me where I'm at, meeting my clients where they're at. And if we're showing up as who we are not, they clearly show that, and we'll shift things for that. And I think that's incredibly powerful right there, because now there's space being held for you by these animals as who you are, whether you want to accept it or not. But at that moment, that's exactly, and I don't know any other place in our world that actually that happens.
Yeah, I agree, 110%. Which kind of gets us to the question, many times I feel like when it comes to parents and parents of parents, we feel like the pet therapy, primarily is systematically meant for kids, but I really truly believe that it's not. I mean, it can work for adults as well, and adults that really have a lot of pressures on them. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Um, you know, Animals work for everybody. We're all human. It just different needs at different times. But definitely with the adults, I mean, sometimes just with all those pressures on us and that, carrying our baggage around, dealing with work and home and kids and all this stuff, just to be able to have some space and time, that self-care to just slow things down and connect just as is in that moment, whether it's a horse or dog or watching the fish, or I have chickens and I have a bench out front that I watch the chickens sometimes just peck the ground and just be in that moment, and breathe, breathe
Yeah.
and let things settle down so that we can start to process. Because when we get so overloaded by things, we can't think straight. And
Yeah.
we need that time to just breathe so we can figure out what's priority and have a plan to go forward, so we don't feel like we're just drowning in life or just existing, and instead of just living, we're existing.
Well, and it really brings me back down to some ideas, and I know that we're about coming up at the end of the segment, but when I hear entrepreneurs speak, there's like 3 things that I hear. They want more freedom, they want to feel more valued, and quite frankly, they want to feel more love. And that is something that the pets can give them, right out the gate. And if you ignore that, you're really ignoring a big piece of what we both have termed self-care. But since we're at the end of this segment, go ahead and tell us just a couple of therapies that you have, and how people can get a hold of you, Michelle.
Well, okay. Like I said, my business is Spirit Mountain Healing Center. I do horse guided coaching. So I use horses in the coaching process and that to help with self-care and all those pieces. I'm located in Gilbert on Chandler Heights and Power Road. You can email me or call me or text, as the case may be. I do a complimentary overview and tour. So if you're curious about what I do or not sure it's going to work for you or someone in mind, set up a schedule, come, see what I do and that get a taste, because it's all very individual, very unique, and it's very difficult to describe. So this is the best way that I can do it. I let the horses speak for me and go from there, because they're the best. best ones to help everybody.
Well, I definitely appreciate you being on the show. I definitely appreciate. I can't wait to hear one of your lightning presentations in our chapters. I can't wait to get to see you more, Michelle. Thank you so much for being on this show. I appreciate you. I think you gave a lot of value to our listeners.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity as well, Robert. And yeah, I'm going to be working on doing some of those lightnings. I'm also on the panel on the summit that's coming up, the Art of Connection, this September. So I'm really excited about that.
Well, we are too. Again, I just want to thank you so much, and have a good day. And if you have time to stay afterwards, and let's just chat a little bit more. But again, I appreciate your time.
Sounds great. Thank you, Robert.
Network together. It's all about connections. Expand your spirit.
All right. Well, that was Michelle Goss, and I appreciate her being on. I have a firm, love for people who work. All right, I want to thank Michelle Goss for being on our show today. And a little bit of a slow internet, I guess. Maybe everyone's online. Maybe it's the back to school time. I'm not sure, but I just want to thank her for being on the show. I have so much respect for her and what she does for entrepreneurs. Animals. I don't think there's too many places that you can find the love that an animal gives. And I'm really excited because another person who just loves animals tremendously is our next guest. And our next guest is Patty Earnest. Hi, Patty. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Robert. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. I know that, a little bit of the kind of like a little bit of delay in some of the internet systems that we have going on, but we're going to go through it. We're entrepreneurs. We improvise, we overcome, we adapt. That's just who we are, isn't it?
It is. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think probably you would agree with me that the segment with Michelle Goss, I'm hoping that opened up a lot of eyes for entrepreneurs. That other 25% who really don't understand the values that animals really can put forth in our awareness and in our enrichment and even in our emotions. I mean, animals, they do create a great presence in our life if we allow them to, don't they, Patty?
Yes, they sure do. My customers, they've always, they love their pets, and it is, for some of them, it is they prefer them over people. What can I say? Because they bring more value to them. So yes, absolutely.
And for some people, it's like, they become a family member. It and I used to think that when I was younger, I was one that I didn't have that natural tendency of loving and understanding, what animals meant to my life. I learned that over time. And later in life, we've been a house that housed animals. We've done some fostering care of animals. And the more that animals have been a part of my life, that part of me has grown. And then that's why I was asking, Michelle that, and I'm going to ask the same question for you, Patty. Was this something that you, as a little girl, it's just like you found that animals were your safe place, and and a place that you always knew that you would work with them? Tell us a little bit about your childhood and your relationship with animals.
So thank you. Yes, Michelle and I differ in that she apparently grew up with animals. I did not. I have one dog, and part of why I got into the service was because of my relationship with that dog. But it wasn't until I graduated college that I really got into caring about animals. And it was my customers. I worked for another agency to begin with, and it was my customers who wanted to see me do this to be a pet sitter. And so it grew from there, but it was customer demand that got the service going to begin with.
Yeah, and so being that as it may, some of us have parents or we had single parents. So your family didn't really look at animals as being a part of the family then when you were a child, did they?
My mom got to the point where she could pet my. I was thinking about this today. My mom got to the point where she could pet our dog with her foot. That was as far as it went. We discussed who was going to be bathing and walking and so forth. So this is something that I was an adult before I grew to love the pets the way that I do now.
Well, what were some of your, what started changing to where, I know that there was some outside push to it, but there also had to be some type of internal change that really gravitated you to take this on as your own business, and hold it the way that you do. I mean, I have a lot of people that tell me now, and my wife included, that Patty cares for her animals first and people second, which I'm sure there's a mode of truth to that, but you really care about pet people, so I have to say that it really is. It's a combination. But tell us a little bit about how this spirit started really growing inside of you.
So yes, I do care about both, absolutely. But it started growing because I did come from a family that was very nurturing to begin with. So I was like the center of attention when I was a little girl at one point. And so that was part of me was, being able to give back to others the attention that I got when I was a very young child. And it just grew from there. But
Well,
nurturing is part of me.
yeah, and it really, I think sometimes when I'm a big believer in words, and that words should and do have meaning. And sometimes, I hear the word pet sitting, and I feel like sometimes it really isn't a strong enough word to really describe what services you offer to the owners. And because you think of maybe in a person's mind that pet sitting is like babysitting, and you think of pet sitting as, well, hey, life happens and I have to go out of town and I have to bring someone into the house, or but I could, but some people think, oh, I can just get a friend to do that, or I could just get a family member to do that. But I mean, to really be a professional house sitter, I mean, there's a lot more to it than just showing up, turning on the light, giving some water and food, and then walking back out the door, isn't there?
Well, I don't know why they call it pet sitting to begin with, because I usually do anything but. If I turn a TV on, I tell the customers that if something is going to happen, it's going to happen because I don't know enough about electronics. Getting a family member or a friend or somebody involved, they may do it just because, they're trying to help out. And my interviews are an hour. I ask questions that I have customers say, I wished I thought of that. And I wished I had a nickel for every time I've heard that. I ask questions like, where's the main water valve to your house? How would I shut the water off if I needed to? Most people don't think about that. That's like an important question. I ask questions about, who's the vet? How do you want things handled if uh, the interview, I have people say, thank you. We never even considered that. And it's all part of it.
Yeah.
I do everything from, well, today I was taking care of two dogs whose parents are out of town, two labs, and I was also at the home of two cats, one of whom is 17 years young, and the other nobody ever sees. The 17-year young cat needed to be given medicine, and the other kitty, again, nobody ever sees. I had to be able to comfort that kitty as well. I have one here that is the same way, so I'm used to that. But I've taken care of so many different situations, so many different kids, as I call them. And yes, they are family members. And yes, they are recognized for that. I have trouble saying about either customer or client. I don't know what those words mean. I can't distinguish. To me, they're all family members. And I'm still in contact with people who I knew when I started the service. So, it's all part of it.
Well, and I think much of what you do, it's all about the education. And I think many times when you sit down with a pet owner, part of that process is really educating them and having them understand that, it's not just about what can go right. It's about, if something goes wrong, how you're going to account and take care of these things. And, I think the other things too is you brought up medication. There may be certain nutritional needs. There may need to be some like sleep therapies. There may need to be some indoctrination of your personality and your energy with both the owner and the safety and that of the pet. And a lot of times you also have to understand, if there's more than one pet in a home, there's a certain priority of care that you have to go through. And I think, is a friend going to understand that? Is a family member going to understand that? Are they going to take and value the needs of a pet the way the owner does and the way that you do? There's some truth to that, isn't there, Patty?
Absolutely. And to the point where, if a family member or a friend go in and they spend, let's say 5 or 10 minutes, they consider the job done. I'm just getting started with that. I'm known for spending more than the scheduled amount of time. I've had customers come back and say, "What are you still doing here?" I'm doing here because I hear that much about what's going on with your kids. And that, that's all part of what happens. This is not a drop-in service. This is, I will be there through thick and thin. And one of my taglines is expect the best, prepare for the worst. Because if I need to place a call to a customer, I want to be able to tell them, as you're saying, I want to be able to tell them, I got this. So this is where we're moving forward. This is what the plan is. But in the meantime, expect that everything is going well. And don't sit around waiting for a phone call from me. Don't, because I'll text you or I'll send you a picture every day. But just, don't put out the negative energy. Expect that everything is going positive. Expect that things are going well.
Yeah, in our first segment with Michelle, I I love that she brought up and she edified a feeling that I had. And I said, we as human beings, have souls, and wouldn't it be true that, animals, do as well. And now, everything's, maybe up for different interpretation on what you believe on how deep, a soul would be. But the main consideration that I have is animals do have feelings, they have emotions. And certainly, one of the things, and again, I'm not trying to say that family members don't have their place or friends don't have their place, but what I am saying is, someone who's trained in pet sitting or pet management or pet, we have to come up with a different name for this,
We
Patty.
do.
I mean,
We do.
pet sitting just does not do what you do justice. But it's not just the physical care of the animal. You also have to have a certain amount of awareness of the emotional care that the animals need. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, one of my favorite songs is If We Could Talk to the Animals. And absolutely, if somebody would ask me physical, mental, or emotional, the major part of what I do is absolutely hands down emotional. I have to be connected. I need to be able to walk in the door, and know whether the hat that I'm wearing on the top of my head is going to set something off because maybe the pet had a bad experience in the past. There have to be adjustments made. And yes, absolutely. I need to be able to connect with them the minute I walk into a door. And I've had customers say, that amazes me. What amazes you? That I've never had a pet I've never had my pet my kid warm up so quickly to a stranger. I've had letters written about, the dog snoring on my lap, and that the parents haven't even been able to get them on their laps. And I just take it like in my stride, like this is part of what I do, this is part of who I am. So
Well, yeah, and here's certain other things. We as people, we talk about habits, we talk about patterns, and when it comes to pets, um, they're not speaking the same language. We're not sitting the pet down at the calendar and saying, "Well, I'm going to leave on the 21st, Fido, and I'm going to be back on the 25th, and don't worry yourself about all those days that I'm not coming home at the same time, and I'm not getting up at the same time, and I'm not doing the certain habits or rituals that I have." And so that's why when I think about pets, we have to, or at least we should live at their language, and not our own. And even with human beings, you have the golden rule and the platinum rule, and and a lot of the love languages we need to understand, but we also need to know and understand that there's a love language that happens between the owners, our pets, and those who are the custodians of those pets when we're gone.
you'd be surprised at how much that the pets understand, the kids understand. And if the parents tell them, they're leaving, or they see the suitcase or something, when they see me come in, and if I've worked with them before, I mean, they're very comfortable with that. It's because they know who I am, they know what I stand for, and they're very comfortable. And it's like, okay, mom and dad, you can go away. I've had pet parents tell me, don't spoil our kids so much, because when we come back, they're looking for you. And until I can make a journey over, a visit over, I was sent both the text and pictures this morning of one of the kids that I just got through taking care of, who was extremely shy, did not fit in a boarding facility. I got a phone call from both the boarding facility and the pet parents saying, just does not fit in, is too shy. We adopted him over COVID, and now he's not fitting in with other people. We don't know what to do. And it took 6 times for me to go over and be able to feed him lunch, be able to take him outside. But now it's like, if I walked in the door right now, he'd be just as comfortable as as anything. That's the relationship that I build with these kids, and it's very important. And this is not a pastime for me. This is not something that I do to make money. I have a master's. This is my life. This is my absolute passion in relating to the kids, making sure that the family members are happy, all of the above.
Yeah, and I think, which you led me perfectly into the next question. It's being a CPA or an attorney or an architect or an engineer, or any other of professions you could have picked from, Patty. But my question really at the end of the day is why. And I ask that because you and I have talked about this before, because in many ways you are undervalued, you are misunderstood, and you're really misplaced. You almost have to pioneer your profession before you can get paid, or in trade or barter, or whatever we want to do at commerce, as I say it. You really have to create a space for yourself, and scratch and claw to get all the recognition that you deserve. And my question is always, why do you do this? Just why do you do this?
So, and you're right, I am a pioneer to the service. The service was started originally in 1985. And why I do it is because I love animals in general, and kids are a large part of that. But it is something, and you're right, it is innate in me, but it took for my becoming an adult to realize I have in my master's degree, I received a scholarship for my commitment to service, to caring. And apparently it's always been a part of me, but it took the kids to bring it out in me. So
Well,
absolutely, yes. Thank you very much for the compliment.
well, and it's very deserved. And I think really, for the most part, if I want people to understand your why and your who, because once I think a person understands that, they can get to your what and your how. Patty, I just want to thank you so much for being on the show today. I hope I was a good servant to you and we brought out
Thank
some good
you.
discussion for people to get to know the who and the why you do what you do.
Robert, I really wanted to be a part of this. I respect what you do absolutely, and you brought up about some things that we discussed, and I'm just glad. I'm thankful that I know you.
Well, I appreciate you too, Patty. And, really keep up the good work because I know that you really have two hats that you have to wear every day. It's the hat for your pets and owners, and it's the hat for what you're pioneering in this industry. And I really do tip my hat to you for taking this all on. And thank you so much today.
Thank you very much, Robert.
Network together. It's all about connections. Expand your sphere of influence. Build relationships. Be part of something bigger. Be part of Network Together.
I want to thank Patty again for being on the show today. She had an expressed interest some time back, and I said, Patty, we are going to get you on the show because, what I think when people see you, they might see a certain mask that you have, but I think once they understand the trueness of your heart and the value that you provide, and they can hear it in a format like this, I think they're going to start reaching out to you and say, what, I need to think of my pet in a different light. I need to find the value that they have in my heart. And I need to really bring someone in that has that same passion and value for those furry friends of ours the way that you do, Patty. So I just want to say thank you. Also, I just want to remind everyone that I have this scrolling across Art of Connection. We have our next book coming out in the series. I have the book right behind me, Art of Connection. That one was 365 days of networking quotes. And our next book, though, is going to be even more inspirational. It's The Art of Connection, 365 days of inspirational quotes by entrepreneurs, business owners, and influencers. And I'm co-writing this book with a very dear friend of mine, Orlia Moore. And so I'm really excited for that coming up. If you want more information about how to get in that book, just go to Art of Connection. 365 days of inspirational quotes. Again, 365 days of inspirational quotes.com. If you're interested in coming up to our Connection Summit, go to artofconnectionsummit.com. You can get some nice reduced early bird tickets right now. That event's happening on September 21st and 22nd of this year, and it will be an international event. It's being hosted out of Phoenix and London. So get in there and get your connections going. So I just want to, keep everyone on notice about that. As far as that, I want to keep the show going. I'm really, really excited. I have a couple of friends that are going to be on the show right now. And let me just bring them on. I have Tuni House and Barb. Hey, hi guys. How are you both doing? I like it. This is great. I don't usually get a two-fer, F-U-R, F-E-R, on the show at the same time. So I'm really excited to have you both here. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Well, great is good. I always love it. We do a little bit of kind of like the virtual green room before the show, and I told him, I said, wow, there's a little bit of feedback, and I said, I don't mind hearing myself one time, but I certainly didn't want to hear myself two times. So I'm glad you guys got that all figured out for me. But I really I really kind of want to pause for a little bit, in the show. And I'm pausing because Tuni, I know you and Barb have really worked in the pet industry yourselves for, I mean, a long, long, long time. And there's I always say there's the contenders and then there's the pretenders. But I think the first two guests that we had on the show today are truly, contenders. They really do have a heart for pets. Wouldn't you think so?
Yes, very much
You know,
so.
you know and it's really interesting because sometimes when people think of pet people and pet business, there's more to Petco and PetSmart. I mean, there really is.
Yeah.
and 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 the pet industry, it really is varied. Is what I'd like to say in the human industry, there are so many things besides just the care and medical and providing a nice environment and having those relationships. Animals and their owners have something that's far more than even loyalty, and that's bonds. There's a connective tissue, emotionally and even physically, and for some even spiritually, between the pets and their owners. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes. That's
You
in
know,
fact one of the first questions I ask clients in an eval. How's the bonding going? That's very
and
important. You don't have it.
and Tuni, what really scares me, and let's stay on that for a little bit. I've actually, words matter, and we talked about that a little bit earlier in the show. And I'm sure when you say bond, you have a certain definition in your mind of what a bond between an owner and their pet looks like. So when you're qualifying someone, tell us what you look for when it comes into creating a bond with their pets. What does that look like, or at least what should that look like?
Well, for me, I look at how they are relating to their dog. Do they look at it as just a pet, or is it part of the family? Is there focus and connection between the two of them? And I can sometimes tell by how they touch the dogs and work with them, they are truly bonded. There are some that come and I just say, don't come back for 6 more weeks. You haven't bonded yet. You have to have the bond in order to have the respect for each other to be able to work, especially when we train service dogs. That focus and connection has to be there.
And we'll get into service dogs in just a little bit, because I think what I found, when you have a service dog, you're actually getting into a whole different level of involvement and predetermined behavior, because that pet is not just really even providing love, they're actually providing a true service of some type of fundamental help for that owner. And but I don't want this to get away. Now, like I asked Michelle and Patty, were pets in your life from day one, or did you develop your love and your appreciation with what pets offer over the course of your lifetime? Tell us a little bit about, how did this begin and how has it grown over time?
From my understanding, when I was 2, my first cat was Tinkerbell. I do remember her, but my mother always had pets around her, so that was just brought on down. My second pet was a field mouse. I've always had pets, and I still have pets. I'm at an age now where, will I get another pet? Because I'm in my 70s, and I want it to be fair to an animal that I take in, that I'm going to be there for them. Because we work with a lot of dogs that have been rescued. I have a rescue, or their owners have passed. We just went through that with one of our trainers whose dog I had to do a transfer. So I've always had pets around me, always. And now I'm at that point in my life where I have to say, do I want to have another pet, and be fair to them? But they've always been in my life, and I've always had an attachment, and there isn't an animal I haven't been afraid of. Except alligators. I'll openly admit that.
Well, and see, good from bad when it comes to pet ownership. And right now I'm going to touch on a subject which really burns me up, and it may burn you up as well. The past year and a half, we have gone through this COVID-19. And it's affected a lot of humans in a way that we have never seen it affect, people before in the entirety of our lives, certainly in mine, and I've been around 56 years myself. But one of the things that I am starting to see is, I don't know what they call them, but they call them like COVID animals. And all of a sudden people are going back to work, their life's coming back and they're not in the house anymore. And all of a sudden, I mean, I find it irrehensible that people are just dumping their animals, all over the town, all over the city, whether it be out in a park or whether it be, out in the wilderness, or they drive away or throwing, animals back into the lakes. But, I don't necessarily want you to talk about what you would say to them, because I have a pretty good feeling of what you would say to them, but before, before I think a part of it is education, but before we just throw everyone under that bus, what can they do if they really feel like they brought the pet in and maybe they just didn't have the bond, or they didn't have the understanding, or they didn't, really that it was lifelong, etc., or, life happened. What is a better way for these pet owners to take care of all these animals than just getting them in the car and just dumping them somewhere? Like, are there other ways, Tuni? What can we do about that?
Well, I would say shelter last. But I always have found people that will take an animal in. I've always been kind of the Red Cross for animals, in the sense that I would find them a home. People used to dump their pets on my property when I lived out in the country because they couldn't keep them. And that was back in the 70s. Mm-hmm. I've had people dump them off out in our area where I live, and they don't understand the elements in the desert of what can happen to that pet, who trusts that you're their home, forever home, and they're people. And I think if there was more education of educating people of, do you realize it's a lifelong for the animals' responsibility to take care of them, to steward their life with you. And we tell people, the seniors especially that get pets, you should really think about getting a dog that's close to your age so you can age together. When a lot of them get puppies and they don't have the strength or the energy to raise another child, so to say. I mean, because it's a lot of work. And so we try to educate them that way. But you also have to look at a person and say, are they really being truthful with you when they say, well, yeah, I'm going to stay with this? Because how many times Barbara and I have seen this happen in our training, where, one guy gave his service dog away to another person. We found out it a while later because he didn't come back. If we could educate them, we do tell them in orientation, do you realize this is a lifelong responsibility? Lifelong meaning the pet's life. You can't just take them and say, oh, how cute, little fuzzy ball, cute. And then all of a sudden when they get to the terrible twos, as we call it, chewing on everything, get rid of them. Or when they get old and start getting senior citizen age in dogs, there's medical that goes on. And you're liable and responsible to take care of that being. You welcomed it into your life. So how do you think the animal feels? We tell them, if you just take them and bye. And believe me, out where I live, I've seen them tied to trees. And we have a lot of people that have rescued animals that way that are with our organization. They found them when they were hiking and so I think education, but also having people be upfront and honest with themselves. I just want it because I want something to be in the house with me, but they're not truthfully true pet owners or lovers. They're more people than animal people. And so just being honest and upfront to themselves.
Well, and here's where I look at things, and I even really consider this with people. One of the things I talk about is, are you a part from the community? Are you a part of the community? And see, here's the thing: people do that. Animals don't. People have self-limiting beliefs. Animals don't. They don't understand the concept of boundaries. When they say, hey, I'm being adopted by a family, they don't have this self-limiting belief, it's like term insurance. No, this is lifetime insurance. They're not a part from the community, or that family. They're a part of that family. And I think that sometimes, we ourselves can learn something from, animals. If we take the care and we look at how they love unconditionally in their way, I think it actually creates, better human beings as well. Because the only time that happens is because we're putting on the boundaries, we're putting on the self-limiting beliefs. We're the ones that, don't understand the true depths of what love is. Our animals can give us that, if we just have the education enough to understand and own it. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I do. Because here's an example. A friend of mine came back to my house when I relocated up to Northern California, and the cat that I had as a kitten in the early years went over and sniffed this person and remembered them because there was a friendship there. And I think the education is important for owners getting their first pet, and even with the seniors and kids. I want a dog, I want a cat. Who ends up feeding it most of the time? Mom or dad. So teaching the kids.
Yeah.
And when we go to the schools and teach the kids about pet responsibility, when we go into a store and do training with the dogs, if a kid comes from that went to that school, says you can't touch that dog, it's a service dog, that's spooky, the kids are already realizing what we taught them now and telling their parents what they learned from us. And that's part of educating the public and even the young ones. And I know the bond is there. You have to have that. And they do accept you unconditionally. They don't care if your hair is messy in the morning. They don't care if you haven't brushed your teeth yet. It's unconditional. They accept you for you.
And here's another thing. In our home, we want all our kids to be good stewards. And one of our biggest foundations in this home with Ashlyn, with Aiden, with Troy, all three kids, is we say pet responsibility is the development of humanity responsibility. Because if you learn to practice responsibility with pets, you'll have a better understanding of the responsibility and the steward, the stakehold that they have with their community around them and other people, and even bringing some niceness and care. It's more than just putting out a plate of food or cleaning out the water dish or giving them a bath. It's actually going through the action. Because imagine living 18 years in a home and all you did was video games, but you never had contact with another living thing other than your parent who's probably texting you to come down to dinner. I mean, you're not going to get that with animals. The animals are there, and I think it's a great way to learn, how to be a better, more conscious, caretaker for others. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, totally. And I do believe in the contact. It is calming. It is for the owners and the animal. We have in our house at night a ritual with all of them, the two dogs and the cat. And we don't start it, the animals do. I mean, yes. The cat comes up and wants his brushing. And, and the dogs, they have their little routines. And I have to admit, I enjoy my pets. Sometimes my little one that thinks he's a Rottweiler, not. Sometimes I get irritated with him because he tests the boundaries and the perimeters. And he's very sassy. Barbara could attest, he's just a motor mouth. But the bond, I think, is important, and the touching. And sometimes you learn from the animals. When our chipmunk passed away recently, our dogs were in on that bed with him, laying there. And I had not allowed them to be around him because he was so tiny. And they were just laying there. They knew he was passing. And you could see the compassion in them and in their faces, what they were feeling at that time. And I think that relationship also develops between the owner and their animals, whether it be, and we do horse distraction training. And yes, horses, there is a bond there between Allison and Boulder, definitely. Boulder has tried for I don't know how many years to steal my cell phone. He is not winning because I leave it outside the room now. But
Oh
there
my
is
goodness.
that bond is very important. You can learn from the animals. They know when you're
Absolutely.
sad.
And so I want to bring, Barbara into this, because I know that you both do a lot of special things, and I really want to get the world, or at least Apache Junction and Mesa. If I can't get the world, at least let's get Apache Junction and Mesa to know who you guys are, right?
Yeah.
But Barbara, you both have a scholarship program, and I just wanted you to speak, for our viewers, about the scholarship program, so they can kind of understand, your needs and what it's for, because I think that it's very powerful once they understand the gravity of it. Can you speak to that?
Well, the scholarship program is for juniors and seniors who plan on going to school for any animal husbandry, any animal. It could be wild animals, zoo animals, vets, dog training, police training with job, or any canine training, cats, horses, any kind of training. And it's either a vocational school training, a 2-year, 4-year, whatever college you want to go to, as long as it's dealing with some animals. Since we are an animal organization, we have voted to do our scholarship, so it enhances and helps people, especially the kids who have that well understanding of what animals are, your babies or your pets. They are here on life. They do not have a choice of how you treat them. You have to treat them with care, and they don't know why you just let them go. They have no idea. You have to take care of them.
And it really is important, because I am sure there are kids, turning into adults, and they don't know that this exists. And not only is it the scholarship that opens their eyes to a whole new education environment, even profession, it helps them get to the path of, also fostering and leading this industry, because
Right.
quite frankly, there are more pets than there are people to steward them. And I think that is the, phenomenal gift that you're giving those around you. And, without these lights being shine on that, the people who may have the most passion for what they want to do may not do it because they don't think it's out there. And that's why I think it's so important that we get this scholarship seen by as many kids, going into adulthood as they can.
We also do a student volunteer program, and of course, any of our student volunteers are already. One of the qualifications is that you have to live in AJ, go to one of the AJ high schools or Mesa, surrounding Gilbert, the surrounding East Valley high schools. And then there's, of course, a grade average, but that's all in our scholarship program, which I don't have in front of me, so, because I didn't know I was doing this. So.
No, that's
so
well,
and it's on our website, right? Our scholarship application.
Yeah,
you go to
pawsforlife.net. It's number 4, yes, Paws for Life. And so, well, I want to thank you both for coming on the show today, and I really believe that it was very impactful. I think we brought up a lot of shining lights in a lot of different ways on how animals, really, if not are already a part of our life, how we can foster and grow how they are in our life, but also those who are thinking about what animals offer and what they can do. You might take a second notice to that. And, I appreciate Michelle and Patty, Tuni, Barb, for all being on the show today. And, I say, give us 3 months and let's do this again. What do you think?
Okay. If we're around.
Give it a thumbs up. We're going to do this. And that time we'll have all that information, and we'll just read that through. Well, you guys, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you so much, and let's make it a great rest of the week.
You too, and thank you for having us.
All right. Well, I want to thank my guests today, Patty Earnest, Michelle Goss, and Tuni and Barb from Paws for Life for being on the show today. I hope we did a great job of just shining, a whole new light on, what pets can do for us in our life, and, and really, the needs and what we can do for them. Just remember to like us on Facebook, or, go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. We're here every week from 2:30 to 3:30 Pacific time. Right now, that's Arizona time. In the other half of the year, it's Mountain time, because Arizona is one of those crazy states where we just want to be mavericks. So, each and everyone who came on the show and visited us, I just want to thank you for being here. Again, you as well. Make it a great week. And if you have any questions, just please reach out to me, and hopefully I can provide the answer. Thank you, everyone.
You've been watching the iNetrepreneur Show, a production of the iNetrepreneur Radio Network, with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.